Welcome inside TD Garden, everybody. My name is Mike Petraglia, joined by Sam Packard, a Celtics reporter for WEEI.com. We were on hand tonight, Sam, and saw a historic winning streak come to an end, the longest home winning streak for the Celtics in TD Garden history, dating back to the opening of the building in 1995, comes to an end via a 102-98 loss to the Houston Rockets. Sam, I got to say, I was a little bit surprised at how flat the Celtics looked, especially in the first half of this game. Was it more what the Rockets were doing, you think?
I think it had a lot to do with Dwight Howard dominating on the inside. There wasn't much the Celtics could do to handle him. They tried with Jared Sullinger, and he did his best, but once he came out of the game, the combination of Jerebko and Zeller really had no answer for the big man down low.
Really, and, Isaiah Thomas did hold, as he usually does, held the Celtics in there offensively in the first half, but they didn't have that second and third option. Maybe Evan Turner was as close to a second option off the bench that they had, and it was Brad Stevens talking before the game tonight and talking yesterday after practice about how good Evan Turner has been in hitting big shots, but the Celtics really couldn't, beyond Turner, beyond Sullinger, couldn't really get anything offensively going.
And I think that points back to Dwight Howard, because Evan Turner excels when he's able to drive into the paint, but with Howard just lingering there, there's really nothing he can do, and that second unit doesn't have many shooters. We saw Marcus Smart try to hit a bunch of threes. They didn't go in, so that second unit really faltered, and in the second quarter especially, that's where the Celtics fell behind, and they never led in the second half.
To your point about the three-point shooting, the Celtics were brutal really all night long, except for Isaiah Thomas, who was 5 for 9 from beyond the three-point arc. The rest of the team was a combined 3 for 21. That tells you the kind of struggles the Celtics had offensively. Jae Crowder, who would get injured in this game, a sprained right ankle. He'll have an MRI on Saturday. He missed all 6 of his shots from downtown. And as you mentioned, Avery Bradley, he struggled as well in this game, 1 for 8. And Marcus Smart struggled from long distance. So the Celtics really did not have an outside game. Something in this game we saw that we haven't seen of late is Isaiah Thomas not taking care of the ball. 6 turnovers, and he joked after the game with us in the locker room, I don't want to hear any more talk about comparing me to Michael Jordan anymore, because obviously I can't measure up to that. I just want to be Isaiah Thomas. But in all seriousness, Isaiah Thomas had one of those games where he admitted he got in the air a couple of times making a pass, a jump pass, and it really cost him.
Well, the Rockets are a really long team, and they were tipping a lot of passes, which is something we see the Celtics do quite frequently. But it's just uncharacteristic of the Celtics tonight, just being really sloppy with the basketball. And I think Brad Stevens mentioned in his postgame, that's what led the Rockets to get a lot of easy points in transition, and that's how they were able to build their lead.
Yeah, and he said to us after the game, Brad Stevens did, the big concern he had, or the troubling aspect of this game, is you allowed a team like the Houston Rockets to get some momentum going. They came in 32-32, a 500 team, but starting to get their groove on for a playoff run, and maybe they face Golden State in the first round. But that first goal for the Houston Rockets is to get there, and the Rockets have been very up and down, and somebody that gave them a huge boost tonight beyond the 32 points of James Harden was Michael Beasley off the bench. He had a huge game, I thought, in the limited time that he was able to play. He had that big bucket at the end of the third quarter, gave him momentum going into the fourth.
Yeah, it's only his 4th game this season after starting the year in China, and there was a real moment where I thought the Celtics could take advantage, where James Harden picked up his 4th foul and he went to the bench, and that was the time they really needed to strike. But Michael Beasley came in and scored, it felt like 5 or 6 straight buckets, and they had no answer for him. They tried a number of different defenders. Jonas Jerebko got beat a number of times, and if the Rockets are going to have that second scorer when Harden's on the bench, they're going to be hard to stop.
About 2 minutes into the second half, Brad Stevens went small. He went with Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, and 2 other guards on the floor at the same time. Evan Turner, I believe, was on the floor, and obviously Isaiah Thomas. I mean, it was a very small lineup. Now, later in the third quarter, Jae Crowder injured his ankle on a layup, sprained it, rolled it. He did not return, so part of that, the rest of the game, was necessitated by the Jae Crowder injury, not having him available. What did you think, though, of Brad Stevens staying with the small lineup in the second half?
Well, it seemed to be what working is kind of out of necessity, because as we mentioned before, Zeller and Jerebko was not working. What I was really impressed by was the effort of Terry Rozier. He hasn't really done much this season, and I think he played his second most minutes with 10, and he came in and provided a nice boost off the bench, 7 boards and 3 assists in a short time frame, and that was probably the smallest lineup with 4 actual guards out there. It just shows how deep this Celtics team is, and Brad Stevens always says they always have to be ready, and this is the game where it was Rozier's turn.
And Rozier was very humble after the game. I mean, he is an incredibly likable guy with, a very intense background, and he's been through a lot in his career already off the court. But on the court, he seems like he plays with a great deal of poise. He missed a shot after he made a three-pointer, his first three-point field goal in almost 3 months. But he was able to get the rebounds, like you said, created a couple of turnovers on the Rockets. And I was very impressed with the way he handled himself and the most playing time he's had since November.
The thing that impresses me the most about Rozier is his elite athleticism. You can really see him sky and get the rebounds and then explode up the floor. And it's just something that we haven't seen because he hasn't gotten a chance this year, but that's kind of what the Celtics were focusing on when they drafted him with the 16th pick.
Now the Celtics have some time to, get their bodies rested up. Obviously, we'll find out more, as will Brad Stevens on Saturday, about Jae Crowder's right ankle. Fingers crossed that he's able to come back on Tuesday. When this team plays 3 of its next 4 on the road, they play at Indiana on Tuesday, home against Kevin Durant and the hard-charging Thunder, in the Western Conference. Then they have road games Friday in Toronto and next Sunday, a week from Sunday, I should say, against the Philadelphia 76ers. It's a big stretch for this team.
Well, the whole month of March is going to be difficult for them. And right now, as the standings, they're only a game up on the Heat, 2 games up on the Hornets, and 2.5 games up on, I forget the last team. Yeah, it's on Atlanta. So it's a real tight Eastern Conference. If they lose a couple or go into a little skid, they could go from comfortably in the 3rd seed to down in the 6th seed.
Yeah, and that's something obviously they want to avoid. But the final again here, Sam, as we see the 14-game home winning streak come to an end. The Celtics get a good performance from Isaiah Thomas, 30 points, but it wasn't enough. They fall to Dwight Howard, James Harden, and on this night, Michael Beasley and the Houston Rockets by a final score of 102-98. Inside TD Garden, for Sam Packard, I'm Mike Petraglia, WEEI.com.